you all have before you or with you the subject matter that brought us today together, and also the list of our distinguished speakers. To my immediate left is Susana Malcorra, Director of International Civil Society Action Network, ICANN. To her left is Mr. Jeffrey Feltman, Under Secretary General for Political Affairs, UN. And to my right, our host, His Excellency Minister Brende, Foreign Minister of Norway. And then to his right, His Excellency Dr. Tedros Ghebreyesus, Minister of Foreign Affairs of Ethiopia. You have their bio before you. I think we have agreed with the panelists how we're going to conduct this, so they will take the floor in the order that appears in the program for 3 minutes. Then I will ask one question just to deepen some of the thoughts they will have shared with us. Once we have done that, then I will open to the participant for questions and answer.
You have a deteriorating of human rights situation and a serious backlash against civil society. And for me, it's frustrating. I mean, I think what's happening in Egypt, what's happening in Turkey, what's happening in many of these countries should really be seen as an early warning sign. Because if you don't have an opportunity for people to express dissent, to try to address the problems of their society in a peaceful and a civic manner, you have no space for them, and you have an increasingly repressive state that's using the excuse of terrorism and countering violent extremism to push back on civil society, that you are going to have conflict and you are going to have increased extremism.
Thank you very much. Time has now come for questions and answers. We have about 25 minutes, so I see hands already up. So I'm going to take maybe 4 questions at a time and then come back. So there is this gentleman, then Ian, and then there was a lady, where is the, and Michelle, all the way there. And then fourth, Gay Rosenblum. Okay, 2 gentlemen and 2 ladies. We'll take that first. Gender parity. Gender parity, indeed. Yes, sir.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for this opportunity. Thank you for your speeches. My name is Menase Kaisiëpo, representing West Papua. In the Pacific, we are actually serving a severe crisis, as this morning in the country of West Papua, another contingent of elite military Kopassus of Indonesia have flown into our conflict area and subjugating the people of West Papua. Now we are dealing with a 1962 New York agreement between the Kingdom of the Netherlands and Indonesia. We are dealing with a resolution 1752 of the United Nations General Assembly. We're dealing with the resolution 2504 of the General Assembly. And we have dealt with Antea troops and United Security Forces troops in settling a peaceful solution to the people of West Papua to live in peace. At this moment, our people are being occupied still. My simple question is, how, with advice maybe from the table, how can we get UN intervention in our situation, the situation of West Papua and the occupied West Papua state by Indonesia? How we get the International Peace Institute, the members at the table, into an agreement to act now as this gathering has promoted.
Thank you.
To put peace into action.
Thank you. We don't often get the UN to be invited to do anything.
Well, it's difficult for Indonesia to let the UN come in, to let the UN come in and do their proper work.
Thank you.
To save our people. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. The next, Ian.
Just to add to that, if there's one book everyone in the UN should read, it's a book called Anatomy of Betrayal, about the UN's history in relation to West Papua. I wanted to, Ian Martin's Security Council report, but I wanted to ask, make a point, Yusuf, as a colleague of yours on Hippo.
Thank you very much. So that's the first batch. So I'm going to bring it back to the panel. And I was wondering whether you could attempt, in addition to this question that was asked of you, the West Papua question, feel free to delegate it to someone else. I certainly can't take it. And maybe, Susana, you could address the question that Ian mentioned, namely, how can we, through an independent review of the capabilities of the UN system to sustain peace, that sustaining peace becomes the overarching framework for the organization's work in the area of prevention? And maybe with respect to the a question of civil wars, are we only thinking of conflict that happen within borders? Haven't the nature of the factors that sustain and drive conflict change? They are internal with sub-regional ramification. And the factors, the geopolitical factors that are raising their ugly heads again, that are affecting. And maybe I'd like you to give it a try, and then Minister Tedros also to give a try to this last question. Start with you, Jeff.
Thanks, Mahmoud. On the question posed on West Papua, I mean, yes, the UN is operating on the basis of consent. I would find it very unlikely that we would have a Chapter 7 mandate from the Security Council to go in and do something under Chapter 7 at this time. You know, we're operating under the basis of consent. So part of the challenge when we see a potential conflict that could lead to violence or armed conflict or armed crisis is how do we get into the door in order to be able to provide assistance to local actors. And that's where the regional and sub-regional organizations typically come in, because they would have the credibility, they would have the knowledge, they would have the ability to help open the door for the UN to go in. But it's important to talk a minute about the Human Rights Upfront initiative, because that's probably something that's applicable in this case, because the Secretary General a couple of years ago promoted the Human Rights Upfront initiative. You've all heard about it, not only because of human rights concerns, that's obviously part of it, that's in the name, but because human rights were seen as a bellwether for the type of conflict that we wanted to prevent. A deterioration in human rights, severe abuses of human rights is often an indicator, a warning sign of something even worse that could happen, wide-scale atrocities. So we now, under the Secretary General's leadership, do a review of countries through the Human Rights Upfront framework. It's a good way for the system to come together to make sure that the system is working as one in examining where it is we might need to start having quiet conversations. And so I certainly will bring back to the Human Rights Upfront mechanism the issue that you raised on West Papua, but we do operate on the basis of consent. So we have to find.
We're talking 50 years of slow motion genocide. I would like to have that said.
Okay.